So hi guys, it's Max from the Blank Code again. I'm joined by Joumana.
Wait. Shoulders back.
Oh, we'll see. If you want to see our 20-minute video on how to do yoga, there will be a link to that as well. But today we were discussing so much stuff. Joumana, what did we talk about today?
Veganism, vegan motherhood.
And we're at the Inspire. I'm not comfortable like this anymore. But anyway, we're at the Inspire studio on Shakes Road. If you want to meet Joumana, if you want to see this really cool wall behind me, you have to come and check it out. Inspire Yoga Studio. Enjoy the episode, guys. Thank you. And I'm dying. Yeah, we're there. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Plant Code podcast. Today's guest is a yoga teacher here in Dubai, the creator of a vegan kitchen serving 100% plant-based food called Hippie Deli, sorry, I will get that right and correct that. So a plant-based food called Hippie Deli, available on Deliveroo in Dubai, and also a vegan mum. You can find her on Instagram at Joumana Yoga. Joumana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
My first question is, when do you sleep? You do so much stuff.
10 is my
10
maximum
PM?
stay up time. Yeah,
Really?
10 p.m. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can possibly do so much. I feel like I'm wasting my life away compared to you.
How old are you?
27.
Well, once you hit your 30s, things will change.
Really?
I promise.
Okay, so first of all, what came first, the chicken or the egg? No, yoga or being vegan?
Yoga came first.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Definitely. I started practicing yoga in 2009. I was a very heavy smoker. I ate anything and everything, although I was a picky eater. So for example, if I wanted to order a piece of steak, I always asked for it well done, burnt, which really upset my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, because he's a foodie and he likes to eat a lot of things and eats them right.
Yeah, was he vegan at the time? Or?
He's not even vegan now.
Not even vegan now, and you still love him?
Of course I
Okay,
do.
fair enough.
Of course I do. But we'll get to that as the conversation goes. There's some interesting developments in our family, in our household. But anyway, I remember going to my first class and coming back home, and the first step that I took was to quit smoking, give up smoking.
Okay.
So I made a declaration to him at the time, and I said, "That's it. I'm done with cigarettes. Goodbye." And then fast forward.
That was after your first yoga class?
Yes.
Wow.
It was pretty intense as well. It was a 90-minute class, and I practice a specific style of yoga, and it's what I started with, and I didn't know any better, so I ended up going to the advanced class.
Okay.
And I was out of breath very easily, and anyway, I was asthmatic, so smoking was already a very stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
And I guess going to a class where I really needed my lungs, then it kind of woke me up.
Yeah.
And I just decided to quit smoking. But then a year later, it was after I moved to Dubai, and I chose to do my teacher training course. And I thought to myself, okay, this is going to be a 6-month period of learning yoga, officially going through a training. I want to do it and have the full experience of the yogic lifestyle.
Okay.
And yogic philosophy does preach vegetarianism.
Oh, really?
It does.
Okay.
Yes, and not necessarily veganism. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to try to go for the full experience. So I'm going to give up meat, chicken. I will continue to eat seafood if I'm in a situation where it's the only option.
Right.
And I continue to have dairy and eggs.
Yeah, it does seem even people who are in yoga, they do that in that direction where you cut the meat and then the fish, and fish seems to be last. I feel like they always get left out, the poor fish.
It's true.
People don't relate to them in the same way. So how long ago was this first yoga class?
2009, September.
Okay, 10 years.
So
wow,
a very long time
10 years
ago.
this year.
And then October 2010 was when I began my pescatarian journey.
Okay, cool. So what does yoga do for you?
Many things. It's now a practice that serves me physically. It is also a practice that keeps my mental health in check, and it's also a spiritual practice. It's become a way of life. I don't feel right in my body if I don't do it. I don't feel right in my mind. I also suffer from anxiety before giving birth. As you said, I'm a mom. So before giving birth, I was always a very anxious person.
Right.
But my anxiety definitely got worse postnatal. And
Worse.
yoga helps that. Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of women go through what they call the baby blues, which is usually during the first 6 weeks of just adjusting to this new person that's come into your life. But then usually after 6 weeks, it goes away.
Right.
A lot of women go into postpartum depression. I had postpartum anxiety. So for 18 months after giving birth, keeping quiet about it, I would just look at my child and something would happen very, very small, minor, silly thing, she's a 1-month-old baby and would start crying, and that just drives me into a very anxious state. And yoga helps control that. I don't think anxiety or depression is something that gets cured like a cold or a flu. It is very much something that you could live with on a daily basis. It's a matter of knowing how to manage it.
So beyond physical, it's very psychological and
absolutely
calms you so much. And so where does it actually come from, yoga?
It is an Indian, it comes from India, and it's some people say that it's more than 5,000 years old.
Wow.
It is a practice that there are different ways to practice yoga, or there are different practices that you do in order to be in a state of yoga. So if we look at the definition of yoga, it being a Sanskrit word, it means to be in unison with your surroundings, the environment, the universe, other people that are in your life.
That relates very well to veganism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. It's interesting how it does.
Yeah.
So there's the physical practice where you, and it usually is the main focus of yoga, and especially in today's world, people really focus more on the physical practice of yoga.
I mean, the only yoga I've seen, I've never done yoga, and anyone watching this can probably see by my posture that I'm not even comfortable sitting down and crossing my legs. But the only yoga I've seen is like, goat yoga or beer yoga, all this like modern hype practice. I mean, goat yoga, obviously that's kind of animal exploitation, so I can't really agree with that. And beer yoga, I could probably get on board with it. But yeah, I mean, there seems to be so much more to it than just the physical practice of it, and it goes into that whole spiritual and psychological aspect of it. So
it's just one limb of the practice, and the physical practice is meant to prepare you for something deeper. If you talking about your posture, I mean, one of the practices in yoga is to meditate for long periods of time. But if you have poor posture and a body that is tight in many different areas, then it's going to be very uncomfortable for you to sit in a meditative position, and so you won't be able to meditate. So really one of the reasons why we do these physical exercises is to heal the body, because bad posture is not a very good thing for the body.
Definitely not.
And correcting your posture is a way of healing your body so that you can sit in a meditative position.
Yeah. And it's even been medically proven that it's good for you.
It is.
It's better than doing nothing. For the lower back or something, I was reading that it actually can heal rather than resting.
Absolutely.
It's better to do yoga and all
There's a very interesting person in the yoga world. His name is Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
He is a doctor, and he conducts a lot of studies on the benefits of a yoga practice on the physical and the mental state. And there are some really interesting things to learn from him. So I highly recommend that you find some of the podcasts that he's been a guest on, specifically one with someone named Rachel Brathen, Yoga Girl.
Okay.
Very interesting podcast if you want to know more about the
I'll
scientific.
check that out, and I'll put a link down below for this one for those who are interested in going deeper into the yoga aspect. I mean, I find it fascinating because I'd never really looked into it, but apparently, according to thegoodbody.com, 300 million people worldwide do yoga. I don't know how they kind of calculate that, because they don't go ask every single individual, do you do yoga, do you do yoga? Obviously not, but that's pretty much the population of the US.
If you look at the number of studios and virtual classes that exist, then I think that's one of the ways that they're able to get that number.
Right.
And yoga in the last few years has become very trendy, and everybody wants to jump on board, whether it's one class a week or they become avid yoga practitioners on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
But imagine how much better the US would be if everyone was practicing yoga.
That's true. That's very true.
Because it seems like there's a whole peace aspect to it that, anyway, I don't want to get into US politics. That's a completely different debate to be kept for another day. But yeah, I mean, 300 million people.
That's a lot.
I should be one of those people. I'm really not, but I'm not. I should need to work on it.
Maybe after today.
Maybe after today, I'll definitely come and do some classes with you.
Cool.
So, actually, another aspect of that I wanted to get into was karma. Because
Yes.
whenever you Google yoga, karma comes up. Whenever you Google veganism, karma seems to come up as well. And James Aspey, a vegan activist that I admire and follow a lot, I remember he's mentioned in a podcast, I think it was with Rich Roll,
Okay.
and he said that what made him go vegan or vegetarian, first of all, was actually an Indian gentleman who told him that eating animals is bad karma, and he didn't want to have bad karma, so he chose to choose a vegetarian diet. So what do you think about karma?
Well, first of all, since you brought up James Aspey, in hopes of him listening to this podcast episode, I want to say thank you to James Aspey, because he's the reason that I am vegan today.
Really?
And the reason that I'm raising my daughter vegan as well. So yeah, I'm very grateful to him. He's really opened my eyes and changed my perspective on some things. in terms of karma and how you live, what you eat, I think a lot of people simplify the word karma by saying what goes around comes around. There's a little bit more to that, but it's one of those situations where how you live or how you treat others is a reflection of who you really are. And so it's not just a matter of eating animal products or byproducts, but it's the act of what we need to do in order for these animals to become food on our plate. And that in itself is not good karma, because, you know, as human beings, we really do mean well. In our core, we mean well. We really don't want to do harm. That's not our intention, if we were to look deep down. But sometimes our actions don't reflect our intentions. And I think that's where there could be a bit of like a very blurry line.
Yeah, I think it is the lack of knowledge and even consciousness about it. Like, we think we eat beef, we eat chicken, but you're not consciously thinking that is an actual cow that has a life, that wants to live, has a family, and doesn't want to be slaughtered just for the taste of a meal. And karma, James Aspie. Actually, James Aspie, if you are listening to this, feel free to send me a message. I'd love to have you here. Joumana, I'd love to meet you as well.
Yes, I do. I would. And Carly, both of you can come.
Whenever you guys come to Dubai, James and Carly, come to Dubai, join us on the podcast, come do some yoga with Joumana. We'll have a great time. We'll go for some great food.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah. We'll get him. He'll come. Don't worry.
Awesome.
He's a nice guy.
Great.
I'll make it happen. So are all yoga teachers vegan?
No, and not all yoga teachers are even vegetarian or nice people. Sorry, yoga teachers.
Ooh. Well, I suppose not all vegans are nice people either, and not all vegans are yoga teachers either. So you can't put it in either direction.
Yeah.
But like you said, because I was reading into the whole thing about the different aspects of it, and they always mention ahimsa. I don't know if I said that right.
Nonviolence.
Yeah, the practice of nonviolence. So it seems odd if you're trying to practice something that promotes nonviolence and practices nonviolence, then why would you be violent 3 times a day on your plate?
Right. So when I started to learn about the different limbs of yoga, yama, niyama, asana, pratyahara, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, they're the first 4 limbs of yoga, and they're external practices. So
I thought you'd lost the plot for a second and you were speaking a foreign language to me.
So these are 4 things that you can actually control because they're external practices, things that you can put an effort into to make a change. Within the yamas and niyamas, I'm forgetting right now because I'm nervous, but which one of it is where the concept of ahimsa comes in. And so when I was first learning ahimsa and our teacher was giving us examples of ways to be nonviolent, food was just one of the few examples. But the other examples that were given were, for example, driving on the roads of wherever city you are and it's really busy and someone just cuts in on you and you want to curse them. But
I do that.
So you practice nonviolence by not doing that. So how you treat others, how you think of others, how you speak to others, that could be a way where you practice ahimsa. So I think what ends up happening is a lot of people who want to hold on to consuming animal products, they will focus on the other ways of being nonviolent people.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there are many ways. It's not the only way.
Absolutely.
I always have this debate with people about veganism and environmentalism. And veganism isn't the only way you can be an environmentalist. Obviously, there's so many other things you can do. So, and I don't want to make people fight between each other. We're all fighting the same fight at the end of the day. But so yama, that's the restraints on behavior. Niyama, spiritual observances. What's a spiritual observance?
Treating living things as a way of also observing your spiritual existence and coexistence as well.
Interesting.
To me, at least. So everything can be open to interpretation. I think in yoga, because yoga is a very big world out there right now and an ancient tradition, as I said, 5,000 years old, people have studied with so many different teachers, and it's information that's been passed down from generation to generation. Sometimes things get lost in translation or interpretations are very different. So it really depends on who you studied with, whether it's a Western teacher or a Far East teacher, if this teacher follows a particular lineage that comes from India, or again a more commercialized Western form of yoga. So it really
I mean,
depends.
you see there's many different types. Whenever you look at the classes, I mean, I can't even mention most, like Kundalini this and Vinyasa over there. I mean, how many different types are there anyway?
It's hard to count because they're always coming up with something new. I mean,
maybe you should make one.
No, I don't believe in that.
No?
See, I practice a very traditional system of yoga, and I absolutely love it, which is quite interesting because I've broken away from traditions, culturally, because I'm Middle Eastern Mediterranean, food is a big part of my culture.
Absolutely.
Eating meat and dairies is a very big part of my culture as well, but I broke free from that. I broke away from it. So I'm not necessarily a person to follow things because culture says so. So I find it very interesting that I was able to connect to a lineage connect to a system that is based on a lineage and stick to it for the last 10 years. I've experimented with other forms of yoga. I've even tried to give the more westernized forms of yoga a shot, but they didn't resonate.
Did you do the goat yoga?
No, I did not. I've
beer
done
yoga?
No. Although I have done headstands when I was back in the day when I used to get silly drunk, just to show off.
About the cultural aspects and Middle East and that kind of thing, I wanted to talk to you about your daughter. And interestingly, you were vegan during your pregnancy.
Yes, more or less. So I didn't start my pregnancy as a vegan. I was a vegetarian.
Okay.
Towards the end is when I started to change.
Interesting. What did people think about that?
My family didn't really have any opinion on my becoming vegan, because I had already been a vegetarian for a very long time. And also my doctor was a vegetarian. So
interesting.
I was quite lucky, yes. So she, had no issues with not consuming meat, fish and chicken, but she did always recommend dairy. But then again,
why?
She's Indian, and dairy is very big in Indian culture. So I guess, to her, cheese is a form of protein for whatever reason.
Yeah, they do say you need high amounts of calcium when you're pregnant. Yeah, even more so when you're pregnant. Yeah. Not that I'm a specialist on pregnancy.
But you are right, and that's really what multivitamins were for. And also, I don't think, I remember during my first trimester, I was very sick. I was sick from the morning till the evening. I didn't just have morning sickness, as they like to call it.
Full day sickness.
Full day sickness. Nice. Whether I ate or I didn't, it was just coming out. Something was coming out all the time for a good 16 weeks. And the only thing that I could stomach was bread and cheddar cheese. And look, I'll tell you honestly, I am a vegan for ethical reasons, but I will never deny that I've enjoyed the taste of cheddar, or that I even miss it. I do, of course, I miss it.
I like the taste of bacon.
Right.
And I'm fine about saying that, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to kill a pig just to enjoy that taste.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was the only thing that I could stomach, and just at that point, even though I was a huge advocate for veganism, I was advocating veganism before I became a vegan myself, which I don't know, could be a bit hypocritical, but it was interesting.
Any form of advocacy towards veganism is good. Can't point fingers at other people for how they do things. If fighting a good fight, still a good fight, isn't it?
Yeah, but in my first trimester, I just had to be selfish, and all I could think of was, what can I eat to just eat and feel good and keep the food down? And unfortunately it was dairy, and I continued with that.
And it's about compassion, isn't it? You've got to be compassionate towards yourself first and your own survival before you can extend that to other beings.
That's definitely one way to look at it.
So you were more or less vegan then during your pregnancy?
Correct.
Interesting. And your daughter, I believe, from the pictures, looks very healthy.
She is.
She looks very happy.
A thriving 2.5-year-old.
Okay. She's vegan?
She is on a plant-based diet, which means that she's never had any dairy products, any animal products whatsoever. Never even had formula. And if I did have to go down the route of giving her formula, I would have gone for either rice-based or soy-based. I wouldn't have gone for cow-based from the get-go. And so I like to differentiate by saying that she's plant-based, because that's what I focus on with her food. Yeah. And on the other, on another note, she is vegan because children are born innocent and compassionate.
Absolutely.
They are never, the way that they eat is very much taught to them. They're not born with the intention to eat animal products or participate in any cruel acts to produce meat and fish or whatever. Yeah. And also, we have a dog. I don't like to call him a pet, because I also don't draw the line between dogs and cows, etc. I think all animals are the same. And he's a rescue dog, so we refer to him as our first child. He's our son, nice. And he's her big brother. Yeah. And I see the relationship that she has with him, and that to me is a clear sign that veganism does exist inside of her. She's brought up as a vegan in the sense that I tried as much as possible to teach her how to be compassionate and ethical in life, in how she's going to live, how she treats living things, animals, plants,
that
humans.
Shouldn't even be defined as being raised as vegan. That should just be defined as being raised as a good good person. But it's sad that people put that into a vegan box, and that's just not the norm that we have.
Yeah.
Even though people do say they are raising their child to be compassionate, if you're teaching them that slaughtering animals is fine, then you've got to kind of understand it. So yeah, you're right to point out that it's a plant-based diet, not a vegan diet. We do tend to mix up the two. Vegan is the lifestyle, plant-based being the way we eat.
Correct.
So we tend to mix up the two. And a lot of plant-based people who aren't necessarily vegan because they're only doing it for their own health reasons.
True.
So that's important to mention that, and there's always a lot of confusion about it.
Yeah.
And I was reading some interesting articles on the worst newspapers ever, such as the Daily Mail, the Sun, these kind of useless, forms of information. I hope they are listening actually, because pick it up. Like, you got to stop hating on vegan people all the time.
Yeah.
And there was an article about a Belgian couple, their baby sadly died because they fed it a vegan diet.
Right.
And the article's like, veganism kills your child.
The headline, I was actually sent that. I remember when I was in my last trimester and I announced that I'm going vegan and my child's being raised vegan. My brother sends me an article on Facebook, and it wasn't a Belgian couple, it was an Italian couple. So it's happened in many places around the world.
True. And they lost, and another couple in Italy lost custody of their child because they were feeding it a vegan diet, and but it's due to malnutrition. They weren't feeding it enough.
Absolutely.
And what they were feeding it was terrible. The child, it's a sad story, the baby that died. Any baby that dies is terrible.
Yeah.
But the baby in Belgium, they were feeding it as some kind of blend of oat milk, buckwheat, rice, and quinoa, which for a baby
is not enough. And I don't know how old the baby was. If you look,
9 months.
Well, at that point, baby could be eating solids. So I don't know what kind of foods they were feeding the baby. And also, if you look at formula, whether it's cow's milk formula or soy or rice formula, there's more to it than just the grains. There's oils, and it has to also be really, babies grow on fat. They need fat so that they can grow. And if you are a breastfeeding mom, the composition of your breast milk changes according to your child's needs and according to your child's age.
Isn't it?
I know, it's fantastic. That's why I love breastfeeding. It's so fascinating to me.
So did you breastfeed your daughter?
Yes, and I still am.
What? How old is she now, you said?
2 years and 4 months.
All right, is that good?
The World Health Organization for a while was recommending up to 2 years. Now it recommends up to 3 years. I'm still producing and she's still asking for it, so I don't see the need to stop.
Yeah, they do say give it until the child refuses it.
I don't want to be a mom who breastfeeds her 4 or 5-year-old. I've drawn a limit, especially because I want a second child. Okay. So I maybe want a break, or just not breastfeeding 2 kids at the same time. But for now, I'm trying to change it where I'm in charge instead of feeding on demand. So when I feel like I'm not comfortable, that I don't want to, then I'm saying no. Right. And I think that that's okay after 2 years and 4 months.
Yeah. And do you breastfeed in public?
Yes, I do. I do breastfeed in public. We're very lucky to live in a city where breastfeeding in public is absolutely acceptable.
Is it?
Yes, it is. I've just for my own peace of mind, or maybe just to feel a little bit more comfortable, because people tend to stare no matter where you are in the world. Yeah. I always take a breastfeeding cover with me. Okay. So I could be sitting anywhere and just put it on and I'm fine. So I have privacy, my daughter has privacy, and I'm on the table with everyone and waiters and waitresses serving, and that's fine. When you go to malls, you don't have to be in the actual toilet room to breastfeed. They've built dedicated rooms for moms to breastfeed their children. So
Dubai is quite forward thinking when it comes to that.
One of the things that I love Dubai, is it's definitely made things a whole lot easier for moms, for natural moms who like to, give their children breast milk.
Yeah, it's funny, as you were just saying, people find it strange to see a woman breastfeeding, but then they'll drink a glass of cow's milk.
Yes.
Which doesn't make sense at all, does it? I often say to people in that case, I'm like, well, I'd rather drink another woman's milk than drink a cow's milk. It makes more sense from a human perspective, but everyone finds that so weird.
But that's because I don't think people connect to the fact that the milk that you are drinking, cow's milk, is cow's breast milk, because they don't advertise it as that. And advertising and marketing is key to how we consume things.
It's true.
Yeah.
But you said the World Health Organization recommended, now they moved it up to 3. But
good.
No one listens to the World Health Organization because they say meat is a type 1 carcinogen and everyone still eats meat. So maybe people should start looking into what they actually have to say, because it's actually quite interesting. And I'll put a link to their website if anyone's interested in it. So it's very easy to type.
That's a good idea. Yeah. But on that note, I think people will always look for research or studies out there that support what they are comfortable with.
Of course.
So there's always the argument being made like, oh, maybe the research that you're looking at is saying that going plant-based or vegan is going to save your environment or is better for your health. But there are studies out there that say that if you eat this amount of chicken or this amount of meat sourced from organic local farmers, or insert marketing word right there, then it's better for you, it's good for you. There's always the argument, oh, you know, we're omnivores, we're meant to consume a balanced diet of plants and animal products. And
yeah, I mean, they always say a balanced diet, but I mean, that doesn't mean you have to eat animals. It's balanced to get the nutrients that you need. It doesn't mean it has to come from a dead animal.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find something, like you said, it's important where you get your information from and make sure you're not just looking in the places where you want to find the information that you're looking for.
Correct.
So this is going to be a bit of a mouthful, but there's a professor, Futrell, I think is his name. It's a bad name anyway. And he's the chairman of the European Society of Pediatric Gastroenterology, Hepatology and Nutrition.
Wow.
They have an acronym. It's Committee. And so anyway, he says it's difficult to ensure a healthy and balanced vegan diet in young infants, and parents should understand the serious consequences of failing to follow advice regarding supplementation of the diet.
He needs to meet my daughter.
He needs to meet your daughter. And even in that sentence, it's difficult to ensure a healthy and balanced vegan diet. Okay, fair enough. You need a balanced diet anyway. And if you don't ensure the nutritious needs of your child, yes, that child is going to be sick. But that's the same if it's a vegan diet or a non-vegan diet.
Absolutely.
So that's not even a point.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's just in today's world, because of the convenience that exists in our supermarkets and our hypermarkets, packaged foods, processed foods, the fact that we lead very busy lives, we want to have the career and we want to raise children, we just want to do it all and have it all, and we're just cutting ourselves thin and just exhausting ourselves, that, you know, for example, we're prioritizing, I don't know, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then saying, oh, I'm too busy working, I can't cook a meal for my child, or I can't hire someone to cook a meal for my child, or whatever. So they'll go to the more convenient options. Yeah. So whether you are vegan, plant-based, plant-forward, carnivorous, omnivorous, whatever label you want to follow, or maybe not even follow a label, it is difficult to follow a balanced diet, because unfortunately, and I think that's kind of changing right now if you look at the options that are provided to us in stores, and the fact that now a lot of businesses and a lot of people are promoting more wholesome, plant-forward, plant-based diets. But just, you know, it's so much easier to grab a jar of baby food that consists, you know, it will be fruit puree, but maybe 1 out of the 10 ingredients in that jar is actual fruit, or fruit concentrate, as they like to call it. So for me, it was very clear. Yes, I wanted to raise my child vegan because I wanted her to continue being an innocent, ethical, compassionate human, and I also wanted to make sure that she was a healthy child. So one of the things that veganism taught me was to eat more plants, because I was a picky eater. I was raised by a very picky mom. You know, there's a lot of foods that my mom never ate, doesn't eat today, and that influenced how I ate a lot. You know, a healthy, balanced diet for me was chicken nuggets growing up. And I became so much more experimental with food when I embraced the vegan lifestyle. I started to try fruits and vegetables that I normally wouldn't. I mean, my first exposure to avocado was 2011.
2000. I mean, to be honest, I don't think you're alone in that. Like, the avocado has exploded.
That's true.
It's like everywhere now. It's like quinoa. No one heard of quinoa.
Right.
I actually went to the city of quinoa in Peru in 2000. Yeah, it exists. It's tiny. I don't know if that's really where it came from, but that was in 2011, and I didn't even know what the grain was at that time. But now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're definitely moving towards a lot more healthier options, and there's a lot more businesses offering that. So, is that what made you start the Hippie Deli?
Hippie Deli was, I don't know what version of the story to give you, the long or the short version.
Well, I've got all day. I mean,
So my husband and I are very entrepreneurial.
Okay.
In 2012, we both decided to start businesses. We both started the yoga room, which was my first yoga studio. I had it for 4 years before I decided to shut it down. And at the same time that we opened a yoga room, my husband opened a restaurant called Fresh. My husband is a classically trained chef, and he absolutely loves food. He loves to cook food. He loves to taste food. A lot of our traveling plans involve, culinary experiences.
Sounds like a dream relationship.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome relationship, I have to say. And I thank him also for pushing me to be more experimental with my food choices. And he's very supportive of my vegan lifestyle. But anyway, we closed down both businesses after a few years. We just wanted to move on to something else. And Fresh remained a virtual brand.
Okay.
And then the opportunity came to us to start another virtual concept. And he asked me, he said, what do you think about starting a business that focuses on giving people the choice to have healthy food, and we'll have a big menu that focuses on different lifestyles and dietary needs, and you can handle the vegan and vegetarian section of the menu. And I said, that all sounds great, but I think, because it was at the time that I was introduced to James Aspey, and vegan activism became something that I wanted to do. And I said, I want to go a different direction. I'm happy to partner up and create something new with you, but it has to be an all vegan brand.
Love it.
And it will be a vegan brand that focuses on wholesome plant-based foods. And it will not just be a brand that supplies food to people, but it's going to be a movement. I don't know how we're going to turn it into a movement, because, I wanted to become a vegan activist, but I knew that the kind of outreach that people like Earthling Ed or James Aspey, Joy Carbstrong, you name it, all these activists that we admire and love, we're kind of limited to do the same things over here.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
So I wanted to find a different, I felt like, already there are enough of these activists out there in the virtual world and doing tours internationally, and they're following, the method that they're following, and it's working great. Maybe there's a different way that I can do activism, and I thought Hippie Deli would be that, to create a movement that was educating and inspiring people on plant-based foods, on the vegan lifestyle, by showing how easy it is to eat vegan food. And that's Hippie Deli.
So, that was a good story, actually.
Thank you.
I like your approach, because it's true, there's so many ways of doing activism.
Mm-hmm.
You have, like you said, the greats who are out there, the people who are inspiring others to do other things, and inspiring you to, for example, start the Hippie Deli.
Yeah.
But the question that we do get a lot is kind of, but how do I eat? How do I feed myself? And if you make it accessible and easy to people, then people are going to try it. My dream would be to start the world's biggest fast food chain, 100% vegan, and conquer McDonald's. That's my plan.
Nice.
If anyone wants to get involved, you're more than welcome to send me some money, because I've got no money to start it.
Contact Beyond Meat and partner up with them.
That would be the idea, or something like, because I love fast food. I'm a huge, I'm probably the unhealthiest vegan ever. I quit smoking in January, and
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. It's funny, because my story kind of relates to yours when it comes to smoking, because I was asthmatic as well, and I was smoking. Like, why do asthmatic people smoke? It's like we're just trying to kill each other, kill ourselves anyway, with the food we eat as well.
Yeah.
So, back to your daughter again, because I'm always fascinated when it comes to vegan children, because maybe one day I'll have children. I'd love to raise my children vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you do with it at school, for example?
So she's 2.5 years old now, 2 years and 4 months. She goes to nursery. We still have 1 more year before she starts to go to proper school, FS1, FS2, whatever system we decide to put her in. For nursery, we pack her food. So they're not in a cafeteria kind of situation where she has to buy her own food.
Right.
I pack her food, and everything is home cooked and prepared with love. And
is it from Hippie Deli?
No, I cook her everything at home.
Okay.
Occasionally when Mama doesn't feel like cooking, because she's really tired, and Mama does a lot of things, as you said.
We did mention,
I will order some Hippie Deli for her, and she does have her Hippie Deli favorites. She definitely likes the spaghetti and meatballs that we have on the menu. She absolutely
What
loves
are the meatballs
that.
made from?
Lentils and walnuts.
Oh.
But unfortunately, I can't send a lot of the food that we make in Hippie Deli to her nursery, because we have to be careful with certain allergens. Like, it's a nut-free and chocolate-free school, and we use a lot of...
Wait, it's nut-free and chocolate-free, but it's not meat-free?
No, it's not.
That would make more sense, wouldn't it?
Unfortunately, but...
Everyone's allergic to diabetes, heart disease, and anyway. That's not important. Well, it is very important, actually.
Yeah, but I think I'm inspiring her classmates and her teachers by sending vegan food with her, because what I did was she has her lunchbox, and she has her containers that have her snacks and her lunch for the day, fruits and vegetables and stews that we cook at home, especially in Lebanese cooking. We live off of stews, and our stews are normally rice with a tomato-based sauce and a legume of some kind, and meat and chicken for flavoring. We don't really care about, the Lebanese don't really care about protein as much. They just care about good food. And because Lebanon is a country that has very fertile grounds, and most of its produce is actually locally sourced. That's one thing that I love about Lebanon. Like, you won't go to a grocery store in December and find strawberries.
Okay.
But anyway, I feel like I'm veering away from your point.
We're doing a great advertisement for Lebanon, and Lebanese food especially.
Lebanese food, not Lebanon.
Okay, yeah.
Just Lebanese food.
I mean, Lebanese food is everywhere. I think
it is.
It's one of the, after Chinese, it's probably one of the most popular
hummus and
exported.
falafel. Yeah. So in her lunchbox, I remember on her first day, I wrote a note. It was one of those yellow long sticky notes, and I specifically wrote, Tara is vegan. This means that she doesn't eat blah, 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 blah.
Long list.
Yeah, a really long list. And then I just made it a point for a few weeks, every time I dropped her off, to speak to her teachers, the teachers' assistants, the ladies that are in there helping and playing with the kids. Please don't share food with Tara. And I'm very thankful that the nursery that she's in is the kind of nursery that does listen to parents, and they don't share food.
They're quite understanding about it.
Yes. I mean, they're understanding at least of the fact that every child has different dietary needs, probably heavily based on allergies.
Right.
So nuts and peanuts is definitely a no-no at the nursery, but some kids are intolerant to other foods, and so they make sure that the kids don't share each other's foods.
Every kid's intolerant to cruelty.
That is very true. It is,
anyway.
But you can't really explain that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be
people.
screening Earthlings or Dominion in primary school anytime soon. So.
You never know. Asil from Dubai Vegan Community. I'm really sorry if I'm not supposed to bring this up right now, Asil, but I was so inspired because she sent me a video today. She was invited to her son's school because he was supposed to give a talk on deforestation and what's causing it and how we can prevent it. And her son was talking, he was essentially preaching veganism.
Really?
It was really cute. I'm really hoping that she gets to post the video on Instagram soon. I think she just has to wait until she gets the green light.
Yeah.
But if you see, I mean, she didn't say anything. It was her son just pulling a James Aspie.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome. It was so sweet.
Future world changer in the making there.
Possible. Yeah. So, you never know. I think if we can now get into schools and maybe change the dialogue, it doesn't have to be, we don't have to go to kids, because kids are young, they're innocent. There are some things that they just don't understand, they can't grasp. So you always have to find an angle with every person that you are going to perform activism with. If you just change the conversation, maybe talk about the environment, the animals, and not bring up certain words like killing or murder, or if you eat meat it's wrong, because there's a chance that this child is going to be vegan because their parents are vegan. But then what if the grandparents are vegan? Does this mean that the grandparents are bad people?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough when it comes to that. I mean, people say, oh, you're influencing the minds of children, but we're already doing that with the food we feed them and the way we teach them to ignore the animal cruelty. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I'm not going to go around schools handing out leaflets about animal cruelty, but I think it's nice, especially if you can start that dialogue and plant that seed in their mind. To
maybe just explain, first of all, to the schools, because I think we have to start with the adults and explain to schools that, look, more families are embracing the vegan lifestyle. More families want their kids to follow a vegan lifestyle or to just eat plant-based. So your options need to change, and you need to be a bit more health conscious with the options that you give children at school. Because when it comes to children, really, I think I focus more on their health than the ethical side of veganism, because that comes later. Healthy, that comes later when they're older, when they can connect with certain ideas of ethical veganism, and then just giving children the option. I mean, I promise you, if you put a plate of olives and a plate of chips in front of my daughter, and even my husband will say that, who's not vegan, she'll pick the olives.
I like olives.
She's a healthy child. She likes to eat healthy food. She snacks on. She comes in the morning and asks me for dates, for cucumbers. She wants to have a smoothie for breakfast. But then again, that's because she sees me making a smoothie, my husband making a smoothie. Yeah, it's what they're exposed to. So how you influence them really matters.
Yeah, and I think it's important because we always talk about, and I'm always talking about animal welfare. I'm always talking about the environment, and I always almost forget the health aspect of it. But that's the important thing as well, that you're actually doing it for your kids' health as well, which is cannot be forgotten.
Of course.
And we need to keep that at the front of it, because everyone wants healthy children. No one wants sick children.
Of course.
Vegan people are the last people who want to kill children.
Yeah.
Or any being for that matter. And I forgot to mention something about Asil and about the Dubai vegan community. That they recently started a Facebook page. So get onto the Facebook page. I'll put a link down below as well. Yep. Find out about all the activities that we're going to be organising in Dubai. Joumana will be there. I'll be there. Mm-hmm. Meet all the cool people. James Aspie will be there as well, hopefully. It's going to happen.
Don't get me excited.
Fake it till you make it. So, you know. And so what do the other mums? They must hate you, the other mums. Do they not? No? I mean, I feel like if I was the mum and I saw you, I would hate you. I'd just be jealous because like you're super healthy, super fit. Everything, you know.
I don't have a lot of mom friends, but one of my best friends is vegan.
Okay.
And for a very long time, I'm the reason she became vegan, by the way.
Congratulations.
You're welcome, Rana. You're welcome. Her daughter was being raised vegetarian for some time. Vegetarian because she did have cow's formula. It was the only option that the mother could go for. So, you know, I completely understand that. I can sympathize with, and I'll never judge a mom for the choices that she's going to make for the better of her child. But now her daughter's 3 years old and no longer eats a fully vegetarian diet, but at home it's very much focused on plant-based vegan food. Ran and I, you know, we bond over not just veganism, but being vegan moms, even if her child is not a vegan. Okay. So I'm very happy to not have a lot of vegan mom friends or just in general mom friends, and have this one friend who supports me and understands me. But we do crush a lot on Ellen Fisher. So sometimes it's almost like Ellen Fisher is the third friend in the equation. If you don't know who Ellen Fisher is, she is a mom who is based out of Hawaii, has 3 kids, and her husband, 5 of them are vegan. She's had 3 successful vegan pregnancies.
What's her Instagram?
Ellen Fisher.
Oh, it's Ellen Fisher.
Fisher. Okay. She used to be known as Mango Island Mama on YouTube. So she is a vlogger, but you know, so James Aspie helped me connect to the ethical side of veganism. Ellen Fisher really inspired me in terms of not just being a vegan mom and raising my children vegan, but also how to be a healthy plant-based, plant-forward vegan individual and a vegan family. And yeah, I've been following her for many, many years. I've had a lot of conversations with moms who aren't vegan, moms from my generation, and even moms from like the older generation whose kids are now teenagers or if they've grown. And it's sometimes very difficult to have the conversation with them because some arguments are made that I feel I can't argue against.
Like what?
You know, when religion comes into the picture and they're starting to, you know, you never want to tip your toes into dangerous territory.
When people use religious arguments, especially we are in a Muslim country, and I don't want to offend anyone's beliefs, and
of course,
I generally step away from that conversation.
Of course, you have to be very careful whenever religion comes into any conversation. And also, I feel like, you know, with religion, when you believe in something to the core and it's part of your identity, you just can't change it no matter what. And
you're not very objective to any other opinion. You're going to always defend what you corely believe in. And sadly, animal cruelty is often found in religion as well.
You know, I find it very interesting that you say that, but there have been I've been exposed to Islam and Christianity heavily because I was born and raised in the UAE, so this is home to me, which means that I grew up within Islamic traditions, but my family is Christian.
Okay.
So I might not have practiced Islam, but I did practice Christianity, and Islam was very much part of my life because I went to a school where the majority of people there were Muslim, and even within my family, a lot of our family members have interreligious marriages. So I can speak on behalf of my knowledge of Islam and Christianity. And I've found, you know, maybe you can say reading between the lines of the holy books, that veganism is very much there in the books.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll have to read them. I should actually, yeah.
There's a hadith, and, you know, not being a practicing Muslim or not growing up in a Muslim household, I could be wrong as to what I'm about to share, but I remember I have a lot of vegan friends who are Muslims, and they have shared this hadith with me, which says, do not let your stomachs be graveyards.
Oh, really? That's...
I wonder if you can pull that up.
I'll have a look, actually, and I'll put a link to that if I can for the episode.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do an episode about religion, but
And, you could also research it as well on, there are a lot of vloggers who very strongly follow the Christian faith, and I think, I don't remember, but there was an activist, I can't remember which activist, that posted a video saying proof that Christianity supports and preaches veganism. So
yeah, because they do mention something about having dominion over all the animals,
yeah,
which is why a lot of people say we can do whatever we want basically to these animals. But then I was I don't know who it was actually, but yeah, some very influential vegan activist that I should probably find this and put a link to that as well.
Right.
They were saying that dominion, when you go through the various translations and the older texts, things get lost in, but dominion doesn't mean domination. It can mean be the caretaker and to look after as well. So depending on how you take that into account,
exactly. With every argument,
interpretation.
Yeah, with every argument, there's always going to be multiple angles that you could look at it from and defend it from. It's all a matter of perspective, and I think that's really what changed me from a vegetarian to a vegan.
Yeah. Wow, this went deep real quick, didn't it? It went into some deep conversation. Anyway, back to the original topic, to wrap this up kind of. So let's say there are some mums out there, pregnant mums, future mums, or already mums. They want to raise their child vegan. Where should they start?
The first thing that they should do is to stand their ground, because a lot of people are going to argue against it. They're going to be concerned with their children's health, and then with the mom's health as well. And I think that they need to do a lot of research, first of all, to make sure that they are following a well-balanced plant-based diet.
Yeah, any diet.
And this way, whenever someone comes up to you and has the argument about health, food and health, then you've got all the facts there, which I find very interesting, because my parents and my husband's parents don't follow a healthy, balanced lifestyle when it comes to food. Yeah. And they're always having the argument of health with me, and I tell them, you're the last people to talk to me about health and food.
Yeah, look at yourself first.
So there's that. And then also, my other advice would be to find a community of moms that they can maybe connect with and talk to. You're always going to want advice. I mean, in my heart, I knew that being vegan and raising my child vegan was right, was okay. There was no harm, especially because I was going to follow a plant-based diet. But every now and then, because it's very natural for you to worry about your child, you're going to start to question, like, am I doing the right thing?
But there are a lot of resources online as well that you can find, and even the American Dietetics Association, they do state that a well-planned vegan diet can be healthy for your child. So it can be done, and there's official sources, like you said, the World Health Organization as well, and I think it's plantbased.org. They have a whole
the nutrition facts.
Yeah, nutrition facts as well. They have a whole pregnancy planner, and they have also a course for people who want to do that as well.
Another thing that I would say that would help moms who are about to have their children, or their children are still in the age where they're seeing pediatricians, is to find a pediatrician who's not necessarily vegan but supports plant-forward, plant-based diets. And I was really lucky to find a pediatrician in Dubai, a gentleman who's in his 70s, whose daughter is vegan and has 4 vegan children.
Wow.
And he never goes for labels. Like, every now and then he'll say, oh, I'm pescatarian now, and then he'll say, oh, I'm vegan, oh, I'm vegetarian. But he does believe in drastically decreasing the consumption of meat and chicken as an individual. And he also says, I don't think kids should eat meat or chicken at a young age. Like, if families and households want to raise their children, don't want to necessarily raise their children as vegan, that they want to continue feeding them animal products, there needs to be some time before that's introduced into their diet.
So you recommend having the child followed by a nutritionist or a pediatrician?
I think if a mom is maybe overwhelmed, because it's very natural to feel overwhelmed, having a child, if you're a new mom or having multiple children and a career and just a busy life in a busy city, it could be very overwhelming. And so you might not necessarily have the time to research nutrition or what sources of food could be good to meet the nutritional needs of a child or an adult. So working with a nutritionist or even a pediatrician, because every time I would go to the pediatrician and the doctor would weigh my daughter, measure her height, her head circumference, and her cognitive development or anything, he keeps telling me, like, she is above average with everything.
Is she tall?
She is
Yeah?
She's very tall, and you know, she's not a chubby baby.
Because they say a lot, like, you're going to stunt your growth if you have a vegan diet as a child, and that comes up a lot about it's going to affect how your
That's
height.
not true. That's not true. So my daughter is always in the, every time I took her, it would average between the 80th to 90th percentile for her height, which means that she is, I mean, it helps that her father is tall. I'm not.
Yeah, you're not that tall. I'll say it's not getting that from you.
I'm a bit of a shorty, but she's definitely growing tall, and she's not an overweight child. Like she's got a belly like any child would, and like full cheeks, but everything else is toned. Like she's strong, does yoga with me from time to time, and she, like I said, she doesn't crave junk food, and she has a very healthy bowel movement.
Good to know.
Never suffered from constipation, never ever, which I find it surprising, because I don't know if this is too much information, but before I became vegan, one of the biggest health issues that I had was constipation.
Really? It's funny, I've been talking quite a lot about poo. Last week I was talking about dog poo. This week it's human poo. You know, it's an important and natural thing. It's got to be talked about, you know. Yeah. So on that fine note, Joumana, I think we'll wrap this up. Thank you for talking to me. Once again, you can find Joumana at Joumana Yoga?
Yes.
Joumana Yoga. Correct. I will put a link to you as well.
Thank you.
Give me a lot of links today. Lots of information. Thanks for joining us on the Plant Code podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're always welcome. And next time we are here, James Aspie will be here as well.
Awesome. I can't wait.
All right. See you guys next week.
Thanks
a lot.